These days, if you want to run a good camp draft, one of the requirements is you've got to have good cattle. Sometimes those cattle need a bit of preparation so when they get to town and they don't spook, they'll perform the way you need. You've got to prepare the ground, you prepare your horse, you prepare the cattle. In the old days, they used to use horses to muster and draft cattle all the time. Now there's a lot of motorbikes, buggies, there's lanes, and there's not the need to have them as quiet at home as there used to be. We want to compete with horses today, so we have to get them ready, and we've got to make best use of our time. So how we go about it, like every cow's got to see us, every cow's got to be comfortable with we there, so we don't have to turn a heap of cattle out because they're not suitable to compete with. There's a bit of a cattlemanship technique that you need to understand how those cows are thinking. You don't want them to be too scaredy, you don't want them to be wanting to run away. Now, if you've got some cattle, whether they're in the paddock at home or whether they're in a feedlot pen, there's a technique of just riding around those cattle so you don't spook them too hard. You ride around and around like a ringer. That's how he got his name. Just ride around them cattle at a distance so they don't take fright. As they get quieter, you can come a little closer and ride a little faster. Circling these cattle and the settling them is quite important. Like used to someone riding outside, it makes them settle. They feel that they've got the security of their friends around them. When you're trying to put them through gates, you don't drive them so fast that they push one another around. Same as people, they don't like getting pushed around. You make sure when they get to the gate, they don't all try to get through, push one another, hit either side. They've got to have plenty of room to go through each gate. Right, the yards, as soon as they come off the truck, or if you walk them in here, they'll end up in a big yard, and then, we don't want them to spook. We've got to stand, and we'll lead them into a yard half that size and half that mob. We'll have one or two people on a horse, no one on foot, so they'll lead through the gate without rushing. They haven't got to rush at the gate to try and get out. We'll try and build those yards in a way that it's quite easy for them to walk from this yard and then back into the next yard, so that an old man and a lame horse could put them through there. If we design these cattle right and design the yard right, it's quite easy for them to go from one yard to the other. Now all the way they're seeing a man on a horse that's not chasing them. But outside of the yard design, the ring especially, the old days Campdraft would ring the show ring, which were round, and then they put the cutout yard on the outside of that circle, so as soon as you come out of that camp and try and do a peg, the fences in those corners are quite close there. So we've designed this yard here so there's a bit more room for the pegs on the outside. Transporting cattle's quite stressful. They've got to be packed up pretty tight to make it economical. As soon as they get off that truck, they rarely work any good straight off that truck. So they need, 2 or 3 hours there, and they need to drink water if it's hot days, and if you want to settle them a bit more, a bit of feed doesn't hurt either. So to keep those cattle calm and get them to handle as good as you could, you have them in a fairly big mob, and don't crowd them. Don't put them in a small pen. Don't have someone standing over the top of them. Stay on their level. Don't stand above them. Don't cut them down. Leave them standing in the yard with it. And it's got to be a big enough yard that the horse isn't threatening them. If you loan cattle to a camp draft, that committee's under an obligation to look after them. The competitor, when he rides in that yard, he's under an obligation as well to treat them cattle like a cattleman should. It's meant to be a camp draft, which means a cattle camp, and you bring yours separate with minimal disturbance to the rest of the herd. And of course the judge, he's meant to police that. He's not meant to mess up the rest of the cattle for the stock owner or the rest of the competitors. I still get a kick out of drafting. Once I come out that front gate, it's like it doesn't matter who your father is, it doesn't matter what money you got in the bank account, it doesn't matter what you've won in the past, the steer doesn't read your resume, it's just you and him. Your last performance doesn't mean a thing, it's what you're doing today now. I'm trying to do it slightly different. I'm hoping it's of some benefit to somebody. My days at camp draft, and there's more in the past than in front. I'm on the way downhill, not the way uphill. And if somebody can benefit from my experience in the past, even if one person, I'll be happy with that.